Yeah, we're really excited to share some insights today. So hopefully you guys have some good takeaways. With that, we're going to get started on our slides, and I'm going to go through just quick housekeeping. So for our agenda today, we're going to talk about the seller's value, provide some insight into what sellers and buyers are looking for, and how you come in and you help support that and you provide value to the agents. We're going to go through what we call stage, share, and show. So staging your virtual listings and what that looks like, how you can share these and maximize getting the views that you need to get, and then how you can show the results to your agents and to others in the value that you've brought each time. And then we're going to finish off kind of giving you a little bit of insight into potentially helping you grow your business. And with that said as well, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you do have any questions, I believe everybody is going to be muted on this webinar, but please feel free to use the chat. We've got someone monitoring it, so if there's anything urgent, they'll stop us and let us know that there's an important question. But otherwise, we'll save those till the end and we'll try and answer everybody's questions that have come in. Perfect. So with that, let's get started with what sellers want the most from real estate agents.
Great. Well, why don't I jump into it? So, our primary goal is really understanding how to better market your listings online for the real estate agents. If you're a photographer or marketing company, it's helping them to do a better job. And so really the point of this is to, provide those insights that really allow you to understand why the things that we're going to take you through today, like stage, share, and show, are important. And where we like to start off is with, what the seller wants in terms of what their expectations are from the real estate agent. And the goal is to be able to provide value to your clients as the vendor for a real estate listing. And where we get a lot of our facts from are from the National Association of Realtors. They put out an annual report every year called Profile of Home Buyers and Sellers, where they query thousands of buyers and sellers. And they ask them these questions in terms of, as they're going through this process, what did they find useful? What did they find helpful? And what is important to them? And there's some really great stats for it. So if you want to dive in a little deeper, you can get it off of the National Association of Realtors website. And it's a multi-page report, but it's full of great insights and from perspectives of the buyer, the seller, and also in terms of the whole transactional process. And what sellers want most from a real estate agent, you can see here, we've highlighted kind of some of the key elements, but the top ones that we're seeing here is help sellers market and sell that to potential buyers. On 18% of it is help sell the home within a specific time frame. And then if you jump over to the right, 13% of them help find the buyer, find a buyer for the home. And those are all very similar, slight nuances in terms of the differences for each of them. But really what it's showing is that a majority of what they're looking for is they're looking for that you as a real estate professional to help sell and market that home for them. And so that's really a driver. And so how do you do a better job of marketing and selling a home, understanding that, this is what a seller wants? I mean, their seller's key goals is to help try to sell my home as fast as you can for the most amount of money with the least amount of disruptions. That's the ideal step. And so what we look at is we start to look at, well, let's go to the buyer, because you're marketing and selling a home. How do we really get in front of the buyer? And if you want to flip to the next slide quickly, well, what we do, the same report, the NAR report, really walks through the top things that buyers are looking for when they're, where they're looking for in terms of searching for that home. So 51% of recent buyers found that the home purchased was online. So they start off their home search portion at about 95% of them start their search online. So they're looking for that home and they typically find that home. And 43% of buyers stated that the first step was searching for the properties, while 21% reached out to the agent on their initial step. So we know that they're all online, and just in how they get there. And so that can also ties back to the sellers as well. So quite often, sellers, before they even list a property, will go online and look at what you as a real estate professional are doing. They'll look at how people are marketing homes. And so it's a good first step is you're demonstrating how you're marketing that property. You're going to also get in front of potential home sellers. So where we tie this back to is what the buyers are looking for. So if you want to help that seller find buyers or find and help sell that home faster and for more and with less disruptions, will try and provide what the buyer is looking for. And so the same report from the National Association of Realtors lists out the top elements in terms of what a buyer is looking for. That starts off with property photos. That's what really attracts the buyer to the property. Those are the images that really make your property look the best. Detailed information about the property. So not only the home, size of the home and the number of bedrooms and the price of the home, but what are all the room sizes? What's the total area calculations of the home? Those details about the home are really important. And one of the stats that we've seen that have, has come back, Realtor.com did a study, and what buyers are looking for are accurate and detailed information, reliable information from the home. And so this is something that making sure that what you put into your listing is accurate and precise and reliable is a reflection both on you. The other things, the number third thing that's important in terms to buyers is really understanding that fit in the flow of the home are the floor plans. So how that property is laid out, where the rooms, where the storage is in the property, where the bedrooms are situated, how the kitchen's laid out. Because when you do look at those beautiful real estate photos, they sometimes don't give you a good understanding of the size of the rooms and really how that property lays out for you and your family. And so it's really a great way to understand if that house is going to be your next home. Of course, real estate information. So about the realtor, how do they get a hold of you? Who is it that is, that this listing is the person that I need to go to ask questions about it. And then lastly, virtual tours, of course, are the fifth on the list. Now you can see down this list, other things come up, videos down the list a little bit further down as well. But those are the top five things that, buyers are looking for when you're searching for a home. So providing that key information, I think, will be really important in terms of when you go to market and sell that property. And with that, Kyla, I'll let you take through the stage share and show.
Thank you, Michael. Yes. So what we want to go through today, and I kind of alluded to this off the top, but we want to show you how we stage, share, and show. I know that's kind of a simple way to think about it, those three S's, but I'm going to jump between showing you some examples and then also demoing a little bit in the portal to show you how you can do some things. Some of it is personal preference, but I want to make sure everybody's enabled with how they can go ahead and make these changes or maybe these slight tweaks that they're not doing today. So first things first is stage the virtual listings. Now, you guys are all probably familiar with what a professional stage photo looks like versus a do-it-yourself, a realtor going out and taking pictures of a property listing. So we've got a couple of good examples on the screen up here. So you can see, obviously, there's a very, very, very clear difference between when someone goes out and they've professionally shot in the on the property. And this is probably a challenge that comes up for many of you. Like, is everything set up ahead of time? Is everything right? Is everything ready to go? Versus the do-it-yourself shots, which this one's quite unique. But we've all probably seen the shot where the realtor is showing up in the bathroom mirror time and time again. So. But what we also want to talk through now is staging your virtual tour as well. So even though you've already gone out and you've already done that staging on the property, how can you go ahead and you stage the virtual tour in a way that's just going to add additional value to the tour that's available? So I've got a couple of examples here of really well staged tours. So first things first that you can see that's popped down was the realtor's information was right there right away. The other thing that you probably noticed right away is this was a really, really great shot for starting with. So what we call that is the initial pano. So right off the top, what you were able to see was the realtor's information and a really aesthetically money shot right away before you even start in the tour. So in a second, I'm going to take you into the portal and go through kind of how you could set that up. Another thing you might notice right away is on the side over here, the map is really large and big and it's centered. That's something I'll also talk through in a second there. Personal preferences vary, so some organizations much prefer to have that start small and have them bring it out. That's something you can start up as a default as well. But that's something that you can do to stage your tours as well.
Just to
Another
double down on that point, that on terms of it's just like your photos in terms of, starting off your listing with the front of the house shot, that typically where you start off with your photos. Same thing with the 3D tour, really, as you pointed out, starting off with that gives that property the best look and the best light in terms of really understanding how airy and how open it is, for example, in this case.
Yes, exactly. The money shot, we always say. Another thing you can do to add a little bit of value as well is you can add tags to your tours. Maybe something that not everybody uses, but there is a lot of value in adding it. So for instance, here, a really good example is they've added the link for the exact range that's in this picture. So again, it's just really adding value to the consumers that are reading this. They know ahead of time exactly what they're seeing, and they're able to look at that as
Line
well.
out all those nice features. Yeah, that's great.
The second tour I want to show is one with a drone shot in it, but a drone shot that's also had some extra work done on the side. So you can see right away that there is a couple of key markers pointed out with distance. And then we've got the beautiful house here all set to go. And I mentioned just a little bit earlier that you can set up where you start with the map small, which was chosen in this case. And that way, then I can zoom it out in this case to go into it. So that was a bit of a personal preference. But you can also see in this specific situation, there's outside shots for this one that you can also do as well. And specifically that aerial shot to help add some value. Those can be added right into the tour. And there's ways that you can do exactly what this tour was done to point out key areas and start with that value add shot as well. I'm going to show one more example in here of another drone shot as well. So you can see this one started outside. Again, it's the drone shot outside. In this case, the map started small, and they included a ton of outside areas as well to help add the value and really sell that property that's listed there. Now, I did want to zoom into how can you do this or how can you make these changes? So I'm going to now jump into the actual portal and I'm jumping into the edit default view section. This might be something you already know, but there might be some little things that you aren't aware of. So I'm going to jump in a little bit to some of the additional features you can set up here. So first things first, in this edit default view, you will see start options on the side over here. So when I mentioned a second ago that you could start with a minimized floor plan, this is actually where you can set it. By default, the iGUIDE tour default is where it's bigger because most people do like to be able to navigate the floor plan. We saw that on the last slide where we were talking about how it's the number 3 item that buyers look for. But there is an option there as well to start with it minimized if you've really got that money shot and you want to start there. The other thing to mention here is that you can also add videos and additional photos into the gallery of the iGUIDE. And you could start on that as well. So you could start on a slideshow or a grid, or you could start right away on the video as well.
And
So
that's great. Like we've seen a lot of our customers will start off with a video. It could be if it's a branded iGuide, they could have the branded video in there separate from the unbranded video, and it could be an agent introduction to the house. So when you click on the iGuide, it opens up, it plays the video automatically. It could be a drone shot diving down into the house. And then once that video is done playing, it automatically switches to the 3D tour or to the photo gallery. And it's just a different way to create a different experience for the consumer that's online shopping for that home.
yeah, and like I mentioned too, I'll jump back into this one where the video is set up here. So
Yeah.
See, even though this one started on the 3D tour, they could have chose and deviated from that and gone with the video as the starting point, or even the photos as the starting point in a grid or in a slideshow play. So you have some customizability, there's some personal preference, but adding this is really going to help virtually stage the tour that you're putting out and you're putting out there to be consumed and just make you stand out more than the other tours that are available. The other parts I did want to mention here, so that's your start options. Another thing that is personal preference, but there's some options here for yourself, is changing the scale or the color of the map on the side or the floor plan on the side. The reason I bring this up is I do have some people who do have personal preferences where they prefer to do all cool colors or they prefer to do all black and white. You can customize this. This is up to you if you do want to make changes. So here's just an example at the bottom here, our balanced or our out of the box version. And then you've also got your warm, your cool, your gray, or your black and white. So again, it's a personal preference, but maybe it's something you can utilize to stand out a bit more from other properties as well.
Do you mind if we touch on quickly? So if you touch on one of the colors, why are the colors there or why is it shaded? It's an important fact, just so you know, we follow method of measurement when we measure out our properties and our floor plans. And so when you see the total area calculations of that floor or that property, how do you know what's included and what's not included? And so everything that's in color or shaded is included in the total area calculations of that home. Whereas in this case, you can see the garage is not included, and that's following either the RMS standard of measurement or the ANSI standard measurement, where garages are not included as livable space. And so you can quickly depict, looking at a floor plan, oh, okay, what is included in this total square footage and what's not included? And that's one way to understand our floor plans a little bit better.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So keep that in mind. If you do go to the black and white, you're not going to get that visual really quickly. Whereas with the other colors, there's a very I can't speak that word, methodology for that and why that's like that there. But that's another thing that you can change up. But to come down to some of the most important parts of this as well, here's where you can add your videos if you do need to add your videos into the iGUIDE. And you also have a couple of different options down here for what you could hide, what you could show. And you can do that on an iGUIDE by a iGUIDE basis. And then scrolling all the way to the bottom is what most of you are probably already familiar with, but if you're not, this is a really good refresher as well. This is where you can really stage your tour in a way that works the best for you. So I've talked to a lot of clients recently that didn't know that you can rename your rooms to fit your description. So our drafters have drafting standards and they're going to name things based on those drafting standards. So sometimes that might be breakfast area or dining room, but maybe you or your real estate agent, excuse me, have a preference to name it something else. Or maybe the home buyer has a preference to name it something else, or home seller has a preference. You are able to come in here and anywhere there's a little crayon, you're able to change the name of that room in here as well. This is also where you can come and you can set that initial angle of that opening shot of the iGUIDE. So that's taking us back to the very start there when I showed you the stage property. It started with that really nice shot of the outlook outside of the building, and it showed you all those markers of key areas close by. That was the initial angle set, so that when someone opens the iGUIDE tour, that's the first thing they see. Again, that money shot right at the top.
And can I touch on one thing quickly? So, you put your photos in terms of when we're talking about staging, you're adding your photos, you're adding your video links, you have your floor plan set to the colors you want, you have your tour set up the way that experience that you want to have with as many 360 panorams as you want or as little as you want to, you're the curator of this experience as the content creator, being able to walk through that home. Why this is all important and to have your branding there as well as when someone does click on the link and goes into this iGUIDE, which is like a single property website, it keeps people engaged on the listing longer. And that's really key because that's gonna keep people to really explore the house, become a better qualified lead in terms of understanding if that property is right for them and their family. And as a home buyer, again, really understanding the details about that property. And so having it perfectly staged draws them in, keeps them there longer. And that's really an ideal goal in terms of while you're marketing a property, you want to make sure that people spend time on that single property or that really understanding that property.
Perfect. And we did get two questions come in specifically related to this, and I'm going to address them now just because we're sitting in here. The first is, can I add new labels and or remove, rotate existing labels? So in terms of the rooms, you can't add new or rotate those at this time. It's something we've had as a request before, so it's something we'll explore maybe being able to add in the future. But right now you can adjust existing labels, but you can't just add new labels within the tour after it's already been created. If you do have a request for that, it can go back to our drafting team, and our drafting team can make edits on that as well. And then the second question I think is a really good one. It's, can I add my own 360 panorama photo from my drone into the virtual tour? And yes, you can. We do have a quick help article, and I've written down, I think it's Lee's name for the drones. I will send that over to you, and I might share it in the recap of this tour as well, or sorry, not tour, this webinar as well. And we do have a way that you can add your drone shots in, and it would look very similar to what the individual did in the one tour I just showed a second ago. Oh, I think there's one more. I'll cover that one at the end. Perfect. Okay, so we have covered a lot of that. I'm just going to go to the next slide. So that is share for the stage share show that we went through at the beginning there. And I did see that one question everybody was asked to share with all, and I will share how to add those drone shots in, because I do think that's some added value that we can give to you. So second part of this is our sharing the listings. So you spent all that work, you really virtually staged the tour, you staged it initially, probably before you even got there. And now how do you share this? How do you get the maximum amount of value out of this?
Great
Uh,
job.
Sorry, I cut you off, Michael.
No, no worries. I'll jump in there. Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I think there's multiple different ways to share it. You want the goal of sharing is to get as many views and people looking at that property. So you're marketing the property and going back to what sellers want most from real estate agents. They want you to help sell their home, right? It doesn't within a time frame, but ideally they want to get as many people looking at that property so they can try to drive the best value and best price out of that home and try to help it sell as quickly as possible. So the faster and more quickly, and the more people you can get looking at the property, you can generate that interest. There's some great ways. So we'll start off one with in terms of your own website. So if you are driving traffic to your own website, you can embed the iGUIDE or your single property website right onto your own website. So when you do drive traffic to your website, the whole goal is to keep them on your website, keep them engaged there, try to get them to reach out. And so when you embed something on your website, it doesn't take them off page, it keeps them there. And so they're able to explore, understand that property. And then because your contact information is there, it's your website, it keeps them engaged, your brand front and center, and allows you to really connect with them. Another great way is social media. So ideally on social media, and I think you've got some examples that we can run people through, but there's multiple different ways to share your iGUIDE. You can share the photos, you can share the actual 3D tour, the video links, multiple different experiences, even 360s on Facebook. And I'll let you walk through that quickly, and then we can come back to on the search portals.
Yes. So here is a good example of on Instagram. So this is a tour that you can see. It's being walked through with a like a screen share, and you can see walking through the tour, showing the value of it, showing the house, and really grabbing attention with it there. And then on Facebook here, we do have the 360 right in a post here. And you can navigate around right in the Facebook post and see everything that's going on here as well. So
Well,
two.
it's fun too, because when you're scrolling on Facebook, if you hit it, it will start to spin and grab someone's attention.
Hmm. So those are two examples of the Facebook and the and Instagram. But like Michael said as well, there is ways that you can add that right to your website. I'll actually touch on that really, really quick here. I'm just going to go back into my on portal example. And I do want to say that if you're ever looking for the link or the embedded link, especially on your website, we do have this embedding tool right on the side, right on the left navigation bar within the tool. And you also have some customizability that you can do in here. So you can set your size to start with. If you set up autoplay for your starting options, you can set up autoplay. You can have music playing on there as well. So that's where the mute music comes up there. You can't add your own music. I have had requests for that before. It's just the music that's available. That is the music that you can set on here. Or you can, again, set it to start at just the iGUIDE, the video, or the photos as well. So again, you've got lots of customizability, and you can copy that link right into your website, and that'll save you some time and some effort. Um, Jumping back here to how you can add this into the what's the word I'm
Search
looking
portals.
at?
So into your MLS. Yeah, this is a big one. So most agents will get most views when they put their virtual tour, the iGuide, onto the MLS. And what that does is that then will syndicate into the key search portals. So if you're in Canada, be realtor.ca. If it's in the US, realtor.com, Zillow, and Realtor.com, Zillow, Homes.com, and other websites there. And when we look at the analytics in totality, most agents get their highest analytics and most views from when they have that engagement on the search portals. So I'll let you kind of do the demo on how you can walk through it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this video. I'm gonna put it on mute because it's really loud.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see here that it just takes you quickly through grabbing the unbranded link. And I'll talk through that in a second, what's important about grabbing the unbranded versus the branded link. But when you're putting it into the search portals, you really want to use that unbranded link. And you'll see here, this is just a good example of setting it up and putting it into the listing and making sure it's set up as the actual virtual tour. And I'll show an example of both on Zillow and realtor.ca in a second of what it appears like and what something you want to look out for. Because sometimes people will put it on there as other media and it'll show up at the bottom versus doing it just directly like this is going to give you the most value, bring it to the top, and really get those analytics that are used.
And so this is just one example of one MLS. This is CoreLogic's Matrix or CoreLog uh, Matrix. And so, but there's different screens. So it either will be called, in this case, it was called a virtual tour link. It could be called a multimedia link. And in some MLSs, they'll have more than one link. So ideally, you want to grab that unbranded URL for the iGuide and put that into the first link, and then it will populate into the search portals where Kyla will walk you through some examples of what that looks like.
Yes, so exactly as Michael just described, here's an example in Zillow. You can see the 3D tours right up here, and I can jump into it right away. I can see the photos are all in here, and I can see the tour right away. But what I was alluding to be careful of, you really want to put it in that specific link. The reason is if you don't, you have to actually scroll all the way down, hit show more, and then you'll see the virtual tour at the bottom here. So that's kind of one of the tips and tricks to look out for because that's going to be a little harder for potential buyers to find versus when it's at the top here and you're really getting that value out of that.
Yeah, when we saw the stats on realtor.ca, when they first started embedding the iGuide right on that main listing page, what happens was about 80% of people clicked on that link. And so it's very similar here when they explore, it's right beside that main listing page photo. People see it, they click on it, and so the engagement rate shoots through the roof. When we've seen it when it's not on that main listing page, we've seen that the people clicking on it is almost non-existent or it's very little comparatively. So from like somewhere we've seen the stats of around 8% up to 80% when it is embedded or it's in that beside the main listing page or listing photo.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example as well here on realtor.ca. So we see the photos here, and you can see the iGUIDE is again right at the top here. And you can also see this one is set where you jump in there and you can start to navigate right away into the 3D tour.
A nice another advantage too is if you're also doing video, you have the 3D tour. In a lot of cases, you have to pick or choose. Do I want to put the video on there or do I want to put the 3D tour on or my single property website? The iGuide, you're going to have that all contained in that same iGuide. So when you have that link there, again, you could have it start with the video, pop into the 3D tour. You could have the 3D tour as your first experience. But if you have your photos and everything staged in that iGuide, you're going to keep people on that listing longer, get better analytics, get more engagement with the property overall. And so I think a lot of the listing portals now do give preferential treatment to multimedia. And when you have multimedia on your listing as well, they're going to give it preferential treatment in terms of that whole search experience as well.
What I did want to touch on as well, you probably saw earlier when we were showing that there was the link, the unbranded link. You've seen that email if you've ever created an iGuide before. Your iGuide's done. Here's all your links. Now, I have had people come back to me sometimes and say, "Oh, I didn't get the email," or "Where's the email?" or maybe it just didn't come to you. You lost it in your inbox. I want to show you where you can find that if you're missing it or you need to go back to it. Maybe you deleted it and you put it into spam. But again, if you come into the portal and you are in that listing and you go along this left navigation bar, this View iGuide report down here is going to be available for you at any time to grab any of those links that you need. So we talked about the branded link versus the unbranded. You've got your floor plans down here and you've got all your downloads as well. And you can resend this at any time, or you can add any individuals that you want to send this to as well. So you have some customizability there. It's not just the one time it's sent and then you can never get it again. It's still at your disposal in the portal at any time.
And if
Um,
you're an agent, you can always just reach out to your iGuide provider and they can have that report resent to you as well.
Exactly, yes. And the last thing I wanted to touch on there was just the branded versus the unbranded link real quickly. The branded is something I would recommend using on your website or your social media. That's where you can add a little bit of those extra oomphs to it. Whereas in the unbranded, it has to be unbranded. You have to take out kind of your logo for when it's added on those search portals. So they'll ask for the unbranded link, but otherwise you can use your branded link. And that's kind of just the difference between the two there. We get those questions a lot, so wanted to provide some clarity on that. Perfect. So I think the last one we wanted to cover here as well is we do have a Flex MLS integration with those virtual tours there as well. So this is just a quick GIF going through how you can add those virtual tours. It pulls over the measurements as well. If you do have additional questions on this or you want to use it, you weren't aware of it, let us know after this webinar. You can reach out to our customer success team and we'd be happy to provide you with additional information as
Yeah,
well.
and this is a great thing because this saves you as an agent a lot of time uploading and putting in all those measurements, the room data, that information, that all automatically pulls into Flex MLS, just with that one URL link. And so that saves you a ton of time in terms of uploading that listing, typing in there, no transcription errors in terms of when you're putting in all those numbers and, it can be quite daunting. And so again, saves you time, less errors, and just makes that uploading of that listing a lot easier. And so all you have to do is just double check it and then hit submit.
Yeah, the GIF goes a little fast here. I'll say I get it a little dizzy, but if you do have questions, we've got lots of resources on this to help support you as well. And then these are just a couple additional examples showing what we were talking through before. So this is on realtor.com. You can see the 3D tour appears right there. Versus Zillow, you can see where the 3D tour appears as well. And then I showed you the example on realtor.ca as well. Okay, so final of the three S's that we've been talking through. So we had stage, we had share, and then show. And this is all about showing your results to your real estate agent. So getting those analytics and being able to show the value that you're providing by keeping everybody in that listing for longer, really getting their attention and keeping them in there. So the first thing that you are probably all aware of, but maybe not, so it might be a refresher, is that you do get an analytics report weekly from any iGuides that are publicly out there. This report goes out, I believe, at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Monday mornings, and you're able to add as many or as few people as you want to add to that report, which I'll go through in a second, how you can generate it and how you can add individuals on there. But this is really where you can show the value of what you've done in the first two steps. So that stage and that share. And I think a lot of real estate agents really like the value they see in this because they can present it back to the homeowner that here's everything I've done for you. Here's all the views I've generated for you. And that really helps them to generate more business in the long term as well.
Yeah, it's a great way to, show to your clients there's not a lot of things that as a real estate professional, you're working weekends, you work evenings. There's not a lot of tangible ways to show your clients, hey, this is a great recap of how I marketed your home, how I got people to come see it, and how many people looked at your home virtually, how many people came back and looked at it again multiple times. And so it really shows that you are going back to what that seller's looking for from you is how you marketed that property, how you helped them get potential buyers. And the clients that do come and look at it are typically going to be better qualified leads as well. The other thing on the other side, as homes stay on the market a little bit longer now, that we're seeing in some of the markets across North America, it's also a great conversation piece. Is if you have a house that's been sitting there, and you can show them demonstrably how many people have come through it virtually, how many people are looking at the property, generating a lot of interest, but not having any takers or any offers or bids. Maybe then it's a pricing conversation. So it gives you information or data to have stronger conversations with your clients in terms of maybe discussing price or whatever that conversation is.
Lots of value that you can add there. And I'm gonna just go back really quickly again into the portal. I'm jumping between the portal today. Like I said, we're gonna demo you some stuff. But if you go onto your left navigation bar again, this is where you can find your analytics report, or you can add individuals onto here. So you can add any subscribers that you want. Maybe there's more than just the real estate agent. Maybe there's someone else there, like an assistant or somebody who's helping them out that also needs this report. You can add them on here, or you can unsubscribe them too if you feel they don't need that. This is where you go to do that. And like I said, it'll generate on that Monday weekly. So you're going to get that Mondays at 9 a.m., usually right in the morning. So it might be a good time to check in with your real estate agents as well after they've seen that report later in the week.
Kyla, can you show, I think a common question that comes up is agent's got the analytics, they've sold the house. How do they turn off those analytics?
Yes. So I think there's two things. You can lock the iGUIDE. That's one starting point. So then it's done and you won't get those analytics again. The other thing is I don't know if I have the exact instructions here, but I'll send that over as well afterwards, how
Sure.
you subscribe all the agents, because I do know that does come up. Sometimes the agents have been getting it for a while and it's still sitting up there and they don't want to get it anymore. So
Right.
you
There's a sold button on the report. So
True.
if they do have access to the portal, they can hit the sold button and they log into the report and they can lock that property as well.
Yes, sorry. I thought you were saying for the ones that were still active,
Oh,
but
that's
yes,
good.
gold
Yeah,
report, it's right there on the report, and you can definitely just say it's done, and then everybody won't get those notifications anymore.
perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so we did promise as well that off the top that we wanted to talk about a way that you could potentially grow your business or potentially generate some additional leads. We did recently launch what we call the iGUIDE Ion map. I was losing my train of thought there, but the Ion map, you might have seen some communication from us, but we recently launched our new one and it looks very similar to what's on the screen here. What you can do is you're actually able to join with your Google business profile, and it'll put you on there as an iGuide provider. And if anybody is coming and searching because they just want to generate an iGuide, so they want an iGuide of their home, maybe, or it's a real estate agent that's looking for something new, and they're looking for someone who can provide them with an iGuide. Individual organizations will be on the map, and it actually works based on Google Maps. So if I go on and I'm in my location, it's going to take my location from where I'm signing on from, and it's going to show me iGuide operators in my vicinity or in my area. And I'm able to go through and go directly to their website and their links. You can put your contact information on there. You can put positive reviews on there. You can put negative reviews. I don't suggest that. But if you have the positive ones, you can put those on there as well. So there's a really good way for you to generate some new leads or grow your network. And it's free for everybody. We will have a slide next with a QR code if you do want to sign up, if you're not already on there. But it's a good way to help grow your business.
Yeah, and we get thousands of people coming to our website monthly, and a lot of them click through to find an operator. So there's no promises that they're going to click through to you. However, if you're not on the map, they're not going to find you. So it's a great opportunity to get on the map and showcase your work, have your website on there. And if someone's looking for something in your area, it's an opportunity to, get in front of some more customers.
Perfect. Yes, so we'll put up that screen there. And then I think I've got a couple of questions here that have come up. So I'll leave that up there. If anybody does want to look at the QR code, they can go ahead and scan that. But there's a couple of questions that came through the chat that I'm going to read out. So the first one, I might do this one first. So is the measurement import available on all MLS? So right now it's Flex MLS integration. So we have an integration with them and that's what's going to pull over. It's not available on all the others, but it is available with that at this time. The other question I see here, is there a bulk management tool for those reports? I have at times dozens of listings per agent. So at this time, there isn't a way to disable those reports or re-add onto those reports. One thing, maybe this is a good one to bring up as well, because I think it's underutilized and some people don't know about it. But everything that I walked through in this edit default view at the beginning, when I was sharing kind of little things that you can do, you can actually set any of these as a default automatically for yourself. So if you ever go into settings on your login, so if you've logged in, you'll actually see that you can preset your default. So this starts as early as the create page. Like, what do you usually do for create page? It's still customizable on every single order, but you can set your defaults up for that. And you can also set your defaults up for that for reports. So if you always want the report to go to individuals, I really recommend setting it up here. It's kind of the best way to bulk do it. But in terms of retroactive ones that are already out there, there isn't a way to bulk edit or update. But if you do have questions, you can always reach out to our support team and we can best support you on an ad hoc basis there as well. And then the last question I see in the chat, and then I might jump over to the QA in a second, but it says, could you walk through the steps to download the tour to access it if needed a few years later? So I'm guessing you're saying this for the offline download, which is a great question. So what I'm going to show you right now, I'll show you the two ways that you can do it. So your offline download is also going to be available on your left navigation bar. So if you go into edit default view and then you go to offline download iGUIDE view, you're going to see this zip folder come up. And this is where it's going to generate that offline download. So what I will say with that is the actual tour part of that download is going to be reflective of the view you're in at that time. So what I mean by that is if you disabled or hit a floor, it's going to be hidden in the offline view. If you disabled a couple panels and hid them, it's going to be disabled in the offline view as well. So it's really your offline download is a snapshot in time of that view. The other option as well for the offline download would be to come back to this report that I was talking about earlier, and you will see the offline download button there as well. So that's the email generated ahead of time. You can also access it in the portal, and then you can access it on that left navigation bar as well. And then I'm just going to
Open questions. When sending an iGuide to drafters, can I send them instructions to either include the garage or exclude the garage, depending on the total square footage? So because we follow methods of measurement, either RMS, Residential Measurement Standard, or ANSI, we don't add that into the total square footage, and there's not that ability to. However, we do give you the square footage of the garage, and then in the ANSI report, what you'll see is there's 4 sections there. There's finished area, unfinished area, above grade, and below grade, and so it gives you those calculations of finished above grade, finished below grade. And so that allow you to determine, what spaces are you're able to include. But in terms of square footage for a garage, it's typically for most measurement standards, you don't include unfinished areas and unheated areas as well.
And then the second question I see here is a quick question about the scanning process. Which ATR preset in survey is recommended? I've been using external on my Planix, but sometimes the images are not like I'm seeing in your demo. Are there other options that are better or worse? So it depends on which camera you have, but you do have the settings in survey mode on the app that you can vary between. The R1 has a couple of additional settings there. So I think we keep it simple for the HDR and just says high, medium, low. But then there's also some settings around dynamic stitching and static stitching as well that can create some differences. It kind of depends on your personal preference and what you're looking to achieve with that. So I would say it's tough to recommend exactly which one that you're looking for. I would say most of these are taken, the tours that we're showing here for real estate, most of them are taken on the highest HDR settings from various cameras as well.
Yeah, and external, I'm assuming that, again, external is going to be in a typically brighter light situation. So you want to have, if you're shooting inside, external may not be the best option for you. So maybe we could share different options for different light conditions. Is something that we could maybe follow up on.
Okay. The last thing I also wanted to share as well is we do have a very recently updated marketing catalog, so the iGUIDE marketing catalog. So you saw us share some examples on Facebook, on Instagram of marketing the iGUIDEs and really providing that value and putting it on social media. We have some templates, social media templates in our marketing catalog that you're free to use. So there's lots of really great resources in there. As well as our marketing catalog also includes some brochures and flyers. So some examples that you would be able to you can take and put your own logo on there and take out the iGUIDE. But we've kind of set up some resources and some tools that are really useful for some individuals. So we wanted to provide a link to that that anyone can access as well.
The one that we get a lot of good feedback on is a listing presentation brochure. I know that a lot of agents still like to print off paper and walk in, but we have it either in digital form or printable. You can add in your photography, your branding, your logo, and demonstrate, all the things that we kind of talked about today, what buyers are looking for when you're selling the home. And this is something that the agent can then take in, showing your company, if you're a photography company or media company, showing your company and how, they're using you as a partner to help market and sell their home. So it just gives them another tool that they can put in front of their potential client, if they're in a listing presentation, for example, and be able to leave behind with them to say, hey, this is how I market and sell homes, and these are the professional team that I work with when I market and sell your home.
Perfect. Okay. So I think that's our presentation for today. So thank you so much for joining us.